If you're sitting in a help desk right now, resetting passwords, closing tickets, watching the security team go about their business, and like if they're in another building or something, and you're starting to wonder, is this as far as my progress in IT is going to go? Let me give you a few minutes of my time. Stick with me here and let's discuss this. Because about 20 years ago, I was in the same situation. Actually, I was even in a lower situation than help desk. I was pretty much an office clerk who wasn't even supposed to really touch computers. I was trained in actually filing documents and working with files and things like that. So there's a version of this story that lives in LinkedIn. It's like nice and clean and linear. You get your certifications, you get hired, you climb the ladder, and you get a nice title. That's not really the truth, not a true reality. So let's discuss this a little bit. It's not because certs and titles aren't real, but there's a little bit of a difference here that it cuts out the job that I took with zero benefits. It cuts out the part where I had to take a job that required a lot of travel and barely seeing my family. It's missing the part where I almost didn't make it out the gate at all in a job market that it completely fell apart, and we'll talk about that. So this is the real version. Gonna give it to you real. Nobody discusses this aspect of things. And if you're sitting where I was sitting, the real version is really the only actual thing that's gonna help you continue on and make progress. So to start it off, I began in the Air Force. Before going into the Air Force, I saw a movie trailer, the website, whatever the movie was, .com. I said, what is that? I looked into it. My dad helped me build a computer. We had a 486 gateway computer. I started really getting interest in computer and the internet. So I wanted to get a job doing this. I went to the Air Force. I ended up getting a job doing administrative work, like I was saying. Nowhere near the systems and computer and technology that I wanted to get into. So this is the first lesson. This whole channel is built on this lesson, and I really want you to hear it. Nobody is going to walk up to you and hand you the job that you want. That's not how that works. Not in the military, not in the civilian world, not anywhere. So I had to make myself useful. When I went into the Air Force, I had to start helping people, talking to people. If someone needed some technical help, when I was in the Air Force, I would try to help them with their email, small stuff. Their computer needed to be rebooted, install software. Nobody really was there to deal with it. I could insert myself and do that. So I took that initiative. I walked to the guys who were working help desk. I made friends with them. I asked about their positions, how they got there. You have to make some type of movement, take some type of initiative to get to where you want to do, get to where you want to go. And that's what really lands you into the right position. So I didn't get prompted into computers. I sort of drifted into them on purpose, one helpful thing at a time, until the title that I wanted caught up to the work that I was already doing. So write that down. Do the work before you have the title. So the whole time I was in active duty, I was also preparing to get out. 4 years in active duty in the Air Force. In the back of my head, I have 4 years. I need to prepare myself for when I'm out. What am I going to do? What's going to happen when all this is over? So I took night classes. I went to part-time schooling. I didn't take general education. I started straight into certifications, Microsoft, MCSE classes, Cisco CCNA classes, the stuff that really mattered, the technical knowledge that would really help me to do whatever job in IT that I wanted to. So all this preparation and education is because I knew that just being in the Air Force wasn't going to be enough, or having a security clearance wasn't going to be enough on its own to land the job that I wanted to have when I was on the civilian side. So here's the lesson. The time to prepare for the next rung on the ladder is while you're still standing on the current one, not after. The people who struggle are the ones that wait until they're already out, already unemployed, already panicking. But I was preparing myself while I still had a steady paycheck. And that's the whole move. Build the next rung while you're still standing on this one. I was ready to get out of the Air Force. 4 years had passed. I had my MCSE, I had my CCNA, I had a little bit of experience because while did start off in the Air Force as an office clerk, I moved into a position eventually, like I said, with networking, with showing my worth, proving that I did have some IT and technical skills, and I was able to get a help desk type of position and then continue on in that experience. Fast forward to after those 4 years in the Air Force, 2001. Now, if you know what the job market was like in 2001, nobody was hiring. Everything was falling apart. I had my certs, I had my Air Force experience, I had a security clearance, but there was nobody hiring at the time. Dell said they were hiring, but they were also laying off at the same time. I just went forward. I took a leap of faith, moved my family to Austin, Texas, uh, continued looking for work. Dell was there, IT was there. You know how Austin is, um, has plenty of companies, um, but Dell was laying off and the other companies weren't hiring. So here's what I actually did, or was actually forced to do. I started working in a factory. I got a job refurbishing computers. I was the guy in the factory line that would get the computer, format it, and reinstall Windows. So I was a guy with military experience, a few certs, a security clearance, and I was wiping and rebuilding computers on a factory line. After a few months, I moved into a school library where I was helping as a library technician, helping the students print, helping the students with their with their technical needs, documents, email, things like that. Entry level, bottom of the ladder. So I want you to sit with that for a second, because if you're watching this feeling overqualified where you are or embarrassed about the level where you are in the workforce, that's exactly where I've been. The search didn't save me from the factory floor, refurbishing computers. What saved me was that I refused to stay at that location. I kept on looking. That wasn't the destination for me. That was just one step along the path. I had to pay my bills. The search didn't save me from the factory floor. Refusing to stay there did. So here's what got me off the factory floor: my security clearance. Now I need to stop there because if you've ever held a security clearance, military, government, anything, this is the part that's specifically for you. And most people with a clearance have no idea how valuable that is. The clearance in itself is an asset. So separate from your skills, separate from your certs, there's a whole world of contractor work that you could qualify for with that security clearance. I used mine to land a contractor job for the Air Force. So no benefits, no security, just a foot in a door with a much better job than my factory job and with my library IT help desk technician type of job. And that's where everything changed. Server support, installing servers, traveling, installing Linux, Windows, um, server management type of things, server monitoring, firewalls, the real stuff I was really interested in. Then I started installing firewalls and something clicked. I fell in love with it. These firewalls were Unix based, command line, and that was just great. I was all in for working there and I learned it. I just dived right in. A lot of the coworkers were great as well. Older guys with experience would always be in work talking about, okay, what's port 22? What's port 25? What's port 80? What's port 443? What's port 125? And they would just quiz you, just like having fun. So we would learn, we would share knowledge with each other. It was a great learning experience, great position to be in. So this is really the next lesson. Your career path may not be exactly what you're going for. It may just drop into your lap. This is the case with me in this position with firewalls. Firewalls came on as a project. I took it on. I loved the command line. I loved Unix and went off installing firewalls. It your specialty sometimes doesn't come off a list that you choose. You find it by getting your hands in enough things that it just grabs you. So that's what happened. Firewalls, firewall installations, going out in the field, installing, learning, learning how ports are allowed, how they're blocked, explicitly blocked, things like that. And so the firewall aspect also brought me into the security aspect. We're protecting our networks, we're securing our networks. So you don't pick your specialty sometimes. Sometimes you find it with your own hands. So now I'm going to tell you something that most career channels will never tell you because it doesn't really fit the highlight reel, the cool aspect of things. This contract job had me traveling a lot. I would be out 2, 3 weeks and then come back for a week and then do it all over again. And that was a hit to my family, to my young family, a real one. So I did this for a couple of years, and that was good. I got some good firewall experience, some good server experience, Linux, Unix, the foundation of everything that would come after. But the travel for me was just too much. I was able to hold out for a little bit, but it cost me time with my family. A painful thing is coming home after a 2 or 3 week trip, and one of my little baby daughters almost didn't recognize me. That really hurts. So at that point, I'm not really telling you this to be dramatic. I'm telling you this because every climb along this ladder, this career ladder, has some cost. So be aware of that. There are going to be things along the rungs of this ladder that are going to ask you for time, money, stability, risk, move across the country, nights, weekends. You're going to have to decide which costs are worth it and which ones are not. I decided for myself at this time, travel was not worth it. Family was more important. I wanted to stay in this Texas area of the United States, but family was more important. I said, I'm looking for anything in the whole United States to get out of traveling. And that's what I did. So with this change, I finally was able to, with connections through the same Air Force, I was able to identify a role with no travel, but I'll have to move my family to Virginia, a place I had never lived, a contract job in a SOC, Security Operations Center with the Air Force. So I took it. Full-time security work, firewalls, real defensive security work. We eventually got into IDS, IPS, which is intrusion defense, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention, vulnerability scanning, password cracking, and security, infosec, cybersecurity, whatever you want to call it, just opened up a whole new world for me at that point. The contractor role turned into civil service, more security, real benefits, and the work got deeper. Just like I was saying, we did password cracking, we did internal security, even a little bit of offensive work. Um, And so I wasn't dabbling in security anymore. I was living it. Then we wanted to come home to Texas. So after some time, I did the same thing I've done before, went looking for the next rung on the ladder that I wanted to be in. I landed a couple of interviews for jobs back in Texas. Between the two, I decided on one to take the offer. So I came back to Austin, landed a government job in with the VA, big internal security environment, and that's where I went from operating the tools to building the whole thing. Not just coming into, okay, our tools are already here, let's work with them, but also, okay, we have some tools, let's improve them. Let's acquire and see if there's anything better out there. Enterprise Nessus was something that was really big, and I really enjoyed that. Database scanning. We stood up a real SOC environment pretty much from the ground up, made some huge improvements also on the intrusion detection, intrusion prevention side, web application firewall side, a lot of things like that, security scanning, things like that. So notice the pattern across all this. Every move, I'm doing one of two things, getting deeper into security or getting closer to where I want my family to be, sometimes both, never random. So the ladder isn't just up, sometimes it's sideways, sometimes um, it can go in all types of directions where you don't expect. So the lesson here is not every move is up. So next here is where it gets a little bit fun. Because of all that defensive work, I started getting really interested into something else. Something lit up inside me, and I wanted to see how the attacks work, the offensive side, offensive security. So I again had to prepare myself. I had to study up. I had to practice in my current position, internal type of security practices. I had to do vulnerability scanning, some type of exploitation, study how exploitation works. At this time, I was also working on different certs, CISSP. I was going to DerbyCon to DEF CON to Black Hat, taking trainings. So I wasn't just sitting idly by in my position. I was also working on learning new skills in education, networking with other people, seeing um, conference talks and people share their experience and share their hacking techniques. So eventually, I was able to leave that role and get into offensive security consulting type of role. Now, this wasn't just all magic and all of a sudden I was hacking the world. I had to do some transition. It wasn't the perfect job of number one hacker. It was auditing. It was identifying configuration weaknesses. So it wasn't penetration testing immediately. There was a little bit of that, but there was other auditing type of roles and duties that I had to do. But eventually I got into full network penetration testing, and that was a different role, a different transition to another company that I had to take. So this was the next step into, yes, you're a hacker, you're a penetration tester. On the network side, in my case, I did phishing campaigns as well, vishing, some physical penetration testing, social engineering, walking into buildings where I wasn't supposed to be in, testing whether an organization's physical security actually held up, breaking into doors, things like that. So I went basically to re um, to understand this whole path. I went from refurbishing computers in a factory to getting paid to break into buildings. So I want you to understand how far this field actually goes. Because when you're on the help desk, nobody shows you the ceiling or how high you can go. They only show you like the next cert. They, the ceiling is a lot higher and a lot weirder than you think. So so that was an enjoyable time. Penetration testing, hacking, and even with that, I never thought I'd want to change, but I did. So I went back to the defensive side, but at a completely different level. So as I mentioned, I did a lot of network security, network penetration testing. I did some web app as well, but not as much. This next position where I took on the defensive side was a company with great pay, the best benefits that I've ever had, but it was doing internal security with a heavy emphasis on development, web application. So here's where I've actually stood. Help desk, defensive security, offensive, back to defensive at a higher or, unique, different type of level. Network, web, physical, government, contractor, civil service, private sector. I've stood on basically every rung this field has. So at this point in the channel, because the question you're really asking sitting at the help desk, wondering if this is as far as it goes, isn't what cert is going to be next. It's, does this actually go anywhere? And can someone like me actually get there? The answer is yes, but maybe not the LinkedIn way, the real way. You do the work before you have the title. You build the next rung while you're standing on this one. You take the factory floor job, refurbishing computers, and then you find your specialty with your own hands, with your own experience. You choose your costs on purpose, and you keep climbing even when the rung isn't obvious, especially when it isn't obvious. I climbed the exact path from an office clerk who wasn't allowed to really get into all of the computer or even help desk type duties to building a SOC, breaking into buildings for a living, and then over 20 years, I figured out that it's not just a random career choice. There's a structure to it all. I call it the cyber career ladder. 5 rungs in order from where you're right now to where you get your first real security job. And that's where this channel is going to walk you through, one rung at a time. So if you're in that help desk position right now and actually ready to climb this ladder, please subscribe because in the next videos, we're going to break down the full roadmap, exactly how to get into cybersecurity from zero in order, no wasted steps. So I'll see you there. I'm right there with you. Let's get you off that help desk.